Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We are here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Krusty and I'm here with Fisher,
Hello, guys.
and we've kept the MVPs on here. We've kicked Keeney into touch. We gave him a couple of weeks without me, but we thought, you know what, we want the two main guys. No, he's been waylaid. So you have us two with you tonight. So we're just going to discuss WWE this week. We're going to go over parts of SmackDown which weren't involved in Extreme Rules, Raw, and then touching on NXT as well. We
Yeah,
had a big Raw, so definitely stick around to listen to our thoughts and review of that. So, Fisher, do you want to kick us off with SmackDown?
yeah. Just before we get to that, I just want to say if you haven't listened to our Extreme Rules pod that me and Krusty recorded the other day, we did do a special. Obviously, not on our weekly sort of Friday routine. We did one earlier in the week. So if you haven't listened to that, go and give it a watch or a listen on our YouTube or on podcast form, wherever you usually watch it, basically. But yes, let's get into SmackDown. So where do we begin? Because there was quite a lot that happened, but some of it was related to Extreme Rules. Let's talk about an NXT call up and return here first. Then, so we got Legado del Fantasma finally called up, as speculated that they would be after obviously they left NXT. So we knew they were coming, and surprisingly, no Elektra Lopez with them, but replaced by Zelina Vega. What did you make of this? So they attacked Hit Row, didn't they, on their entrance?
So I thought this was great anyway because I love Legado del Fantasma
Yeah,
as a faction. Also think it's going to be good for you just said the name and it's gone out of my head
Zelina,
completely. No, not
Hit Row.
Zelina, but I mean Hit Row. Yeah, I think it's going to be really good for Hit Row because they haven't really had much direction so far. It's been a bit random. So I think
Mm,
this is going to get them into a feud. And when Zelina Vega come out, I did not expect that one bit. But wow, what a move that is. I don't mind Elektra Lopez, but in comparison,
yeah,
Zelina is
yeah.
leagues above. Her promo work is fantastic. She's actually really good in the ring when she is in there. I think they might use her more for promo work, but
Mm.
actually, that's not a bad move at all, and I'm really excited to see how this faction does.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Zelina is a big upgrade. Obviously, I feel a little bit sorry for Elektra Lopez, but I think she's just been left in NXT. And it's quite funny because they left NXT all together in a car, and then they turned up in a car here with Zelina Vega. It's like they dropped someone off and picked someone up halfway through, which was quite funny. But I agree with you about the direction of Hit Row now. Like it definitely improves them because they, like you say, they've not really done much so far. And I think obviously Legado are fantastic. I don't think Escobar needs like a mouthpiece, but like having Zelina there as well to do some of the talking, and then he can do some.
And they can bounce off of each other, can't they?
Yeah, like not sometimes you can have more than one person cut a promo in a group. I mean, we see it all the time with the other factions, particularly. I mean, Damage Control. I noticed that like Dakota Kai's talking a lot as much as Bailey now, and like the
Yeah.
Bloodline, they all speak a lot
Yeah,
and stuff.
Judgment
So
Day as well
Judgment
is
Day,
a
yeah,
good
exactly. Yeah,
male
they all do
female.
their bit.
Mm.
So I think that will work, and it's a really good dynamic, and it gives Zelina her sort of, when she was with Andrade before, it was fantastic, and this is going to be similar to that, I feel. So, yeah, I really like this. I thought it was really good.
It's exciting, isn't it? Yeah, it's another faction, one we did expect, but it's going to really ramp SmackDown up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about factions in a little bit because there's so many now, but let's get on to some other stuff on the show. We also got LA Knight finally confirmed to be LA Knight. We kind of knew it was coming in the last couple of weeks. He left the Maximum Male Models sort of lying on the ground. Maxine was angry with him and called him Max, and he was like, "Do not call me that name. I am LA Knight." And he's got a match this week with Mansoor as LA Knight. So
That's a
that's
brilliant
a good move
way
as
of
well.
getting him over as well, because I don't think Mansoir is very popular.
No, not particularly, not
I
in this
noticed he's
gimmick,
always brought
especially.
the yeah, so he sort of touched on that, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
going full face. He's going to have the catchphrases. I cannot wait because I was a massive fan of LA Knight and NXT.
Yeah, same.
I was a bit sad that it felt like he was been a bit wasted in the main roster. So
Completely, yeah.
I'm so excited to see how he does. And obviously I don't expect him to go to the top of the card, but as a solid mid card guy and really solid, I mean that. I'm really excited to see how he does.
Yeah, me too. So that was again another really cool thing there that I thought worked really
A lot
well.
went on this week. I know that wasn't a sort of a call up a sense, but it feels like it because you're getting his character back.
Yes,
Um,
another return I think was sort of not officially on this show, but I feel like we're getting was Sarah Logan. So we've got the Viking Raiders thing. We've got a little thing with Ivar. Obviously, Eric is out injured at the moment, but they kept sort of the Viking Raiders on the thing, and there was a female voice, and it apparently was Sarah Logan. So it looks like Sarah Logan as well as another person coming back, and it's another sort of faction with a female in it. It's very interesting the way they're building this roster, with a lot of female managers and valets or wrestlers, multi-gender factions. So that's another interesting one. Could make the Viking Raiders I mean, they were getting interesting before.
they were, yeah. This new act is far better than the face.
But that's another
opinion.
sort of little thing to note. Most of the rest of the stuff was related to Extreme Rules, but we'll just talk about quickly the Gunter Sheamus had another banger of a match.
Another banger,
with a
banger
strange
banger.
finish. But we did obviously get the 6-man Extreme Rules, so we've already sort of talked about that feud. But it was worth noting that obviously we got an Intercontinental title match on SmackDown. Gunter retained. The only other thing we got really was we got the Usos and Sami Zayn versus New Day and a surprise partner, which ended up being Braun Strowman. And then you got loads of arguing between Sami and Jay, which also continued into Raw. Braun come in, really good hot tag spot, took everyone out.
He is over massively.
He is, yeah.
The crowd is popping massively for Braun. I'm popping for Braun.
Yeah, I like what they're doing with him. I know Keeney had said basically, he's not bothered on Braun or like Omos and the bigger, those two we were talking about them maybe facing each other. But personally, I think Braun is fine. Like as far as big guys go, he's good. And he is over at least. And yeah, they took out Michael Cole here.
Cole, he got absolutely wiped out, didn't he? That was great.
So that was fun. But yeah, they were left. Jimmy was left 2-on-1 with the New Day due to Sami Zayn and Jey Uso's arguing. And in the end, the New Day and Braun got the win. What else was there? There was Solo Sikoa versus Ricochet as well, which was a decent little match. Again, we had Bloodline stuff here with Jay and Sami, and we got a little segment where we got Roman basically tell Sami that Jay is his problem now, and that Jay's too hot-headed. Sort of agreeing with Sami when Sami said he was hot-headed. So Roman sided with Sami and added more to the Bloodline.
Yeah, that all stemmed from Logan Paul winding them up, didn't it?
Yeah. So Logan Paul was on this show. I forgot to mention that actually. That's probably quite a big talking point.
Big deal to miss,
yeah. So Logan Paul was obviously here at the start. They got the full Bloodline entrance. Logan Paul, Roman invited him into the ring, and that was where Logan sort of wound him up a little bit.
He said, which tribal chief am I talking to?
That's
Roman or Jay? And that triggered Roman, didn't it? It's interesting how this has suddenly turned, and we'll talk about it more on Raw. But there's some real heat coming from between Jay and the rest of the Bloodline at the moment.
Yeah, and it's not just Sami anymore. It feels like everyone's kind of, apart from Jimmy, who's just kind of in the middle of it, you feel.
Yeah.
It feels like everyone else, and there were some great lines in here. It was funny stuff again. Sami called him a giant number 2, and you could see Roman kind of break character in the background and start laughing. So this was all really good. You also had a Triple H opener here randomly, just to welcome to SmackDown, and just to mention the new commentary teams. We got Wade Barrett on his first SmackDown here. What did you make of the commentary on SmackDown first before we?
I thought it was really good. Wade Barrett is a really solid commentator anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I mean, I liked him on NXT. So actually, my favourite was Pat McAfee, Michael Cole, 100%. But as a brilliant sort of stand-in replacement replacement, isn't it? It's not really a stand-in. I mean, Pat's due to be back one day, but who knows when. I think it's a brilliant replacement.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's as
happy.
good as you're going to get considering the situation.
They were
So
making me laugh already. So
that was really good. And the only other thing we really got on SmackDown was a women's tag team match. Xia Li and Sonya Deville randomly teamed up against Shotzi and Raquel. It was a very quick match, and Shotzi and Raquel won it. But I feel like that division needs more work still. The SmackDown women's tag team division, not the SmackDown necessarily, the women's tag team division still feels like it needs a lot of work. It wasn't given much time here, and there's not many legitimate teams. It feels like Shotzi and Raquel will be getting a title shot because they faced Damage Control and they faced Bailey individually and stuff. But yeah, I'm not particularly.
It's a bit random thrown together, isn't it?
Yeah, well, obviously, Aaliyah got injured.
Is that why she got pulled out?
Yeah, so Aaliyah is injured, legitimately injured.
That's a shame.
And they replaced her with Shotzi, which is fine, but it does feel a little bit thrown together and a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sure Triple H will do them right.
But yeah, overall, I'd say, I mean, like I said, a good SmackDown, but a lot of it was to do with Extreme Rules. I mean, there were segments with Cross.
So make sure you check out our Extreme Rules.
Yeah, so we're not going to talk about stuff that happened that's really related to that because there's not much point. So there's not really a lot else to say about SmackDown unless you've got anything else.
No, that's it. I think we go on to the big boy, which I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah, so this podcast this week will mostly be about Raw because Raw was a huge show.
Season premiere.
Yeah.
DX's 25th anniversary. I love the way this started straight away. Some people might not be a fan, but I'm a sucker for DX because I was such a huge fan back in the day. They really appeal to my humor as well as just the general in-ring wrestling they have. And I just couldn't help but laugh at this opening segment. And they're really playing on the 14 plus here with the swearing and the crude references. So it was all of DX.
I love the fact that Triple H was really serious at the start. He was in gorilla with his glasses and his headset on, and he was like, "Guys, I've got to be serious. I'm the boss now." Like, I like that bit of it particularly. I thought that was good. X-Pac just is cool. I just love him. HBK was all right here. Road Dogg's always the kind of one I'm a bit like, I'm not as keen on you nowadays, but he's still all right. But yeah, this made me laugh, this segment in particular. The rest of the segments we'll talk about later on, maybe wasn't quite as keen on.
It was a bit random, but I'm still a sucker.
Was okay, but yeah, they had one. I think they had one later on in the show where they were talking to the Miz as well, and Road Dogg randomly kind of made a match.
Yeah, that bit I wasn't keen on because I was like, well, how are they able to make a match?
I did kind of like the bit with the jobbers though. They were like two jobbers that were facing Amos, and they were like, "You're going to do fine," and then they turn around, and they're like, "Yeah, they're screwed." That bit was all right, but yeah, so I think they sprinkled them perfectly within the show. They didn't take. I was worried they were going to take ages, like a 15-minute segment in the ring. But they didn't really. We might as well talk about the end segment then, whilst we're here. So it was literally like the last 5 minutes of Raw, really.
Yeah.
They come out, they chuck all the glow sticky things into the crowd.
Just full on nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have gone crazy if I was there because it would have been bloody awesome to be there.
I was popping in my. It was a bit odd for the final segment, but also I can see why they do it. I was popping in my living room, and I'm normally quite critical of these sorts sections. They're not my favorite. Like if you have an Undertaker entrance for 20 minutes at the end of the show, I'm like, come on. Whereas this actually, I was surprised they didn't
open the show with this. I thought they would open the show.
Yeah, they probably could have done, to be honest. Yeah,
rather than close it. But it's fine. It was okay for what it was. There was no angle. I thought they might do something where there wouldn't be any point in doing an angle because you're not going to get
none of them can wrestle.
But I did think maybe we'll get something. I thought maybe we'll get Bray Wyatt show up at the end, or like the lights will go out and Bray.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for Bray. They're really teasing us. I mean, we might as well mention the fact that Bray wasn't on the show.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that. Do you think they should have, considering how great Extreme Rules was and the reaction, do you think they should have done more with Bray here? I know he's on SmackDown. And he's going to be on SmackDown from now on. But do you think they should have done something?
Thinking back, I was thinking, is Bray going to turn up? Is Bray going to turn up? But then it was so stacked anyway. I don't think Raw needed it. I think it would have been another section in a very, very stacked out Raw. And this was one of my favorite Raws in a long time. So, and it's been bloody brilliant.
I do agree with you in the sense of this Raw didn't need it. It's just
SmackDown. I think Extreme Rules has ended quite a lot.
Yeah.
of feuds and things. So I think maybe it needs the Bray wow factor to really give it something. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit surprised they didn't do something more, like because they just showed the return again, like all 5 minutes of it,
Yeah,
and I
they
thought
just showed the whole
I
thing,
didn't
didn't they?
think
Yeah.
that that was necessary really, and they had a little video later on, which was literally
Mm.
like 20 seconds. I think they could have done something like an on-screen
Could
longer
have just done like a
promo,
little
or
package of his lantern or something.
yeah, just something a little bit different. But I'm not too disappointed because I understand that they want to save some stuff back for SmackDown because Raw was a huge show anyway, and then it gets people watching, keep them watching SmackDown, look forward to SmackDown. And if he's going to be on SmackDown going forward, it does make sense for him to appear first on SmackDown because that was kind of like when Braun returned and he returned on Raw and then he went over to SmackDown and it kind of
He was
didn't make any
everywhere,
sense.
wasn't he?
Yeah, I'd prefer them just to stick to wherever they're going to be. I think that makes more sense. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but yeah, it's not too. It didn't take away from the show because the show was so stacked. And the DX segment, like I say, it ended without an angle, which probably actually was the right move, even though I was kind of expecting one. And it's just a little bit of a nostalgia pop. Let's talk about the rest of the show. So, leading on from the Raw SmackDown commentary, Raw also changed up to Kevin Patrick, replacing Jimmy Smith, of course. No Byron Saxton. He was doing the backstage interviews. Did you think this was particularly noticeable, or was it just more of
I
the same for you? Or
I could definitely notice it here. One of the things I really could notice was you couldn't really hear Kevin. It was he's quite. I don't know if it's because he's softly spoken or they just didn't get the sound right.
hmm,
There's some segments and I really couldn't hear him, especially when they were talking over music. It was really odd, but I could hear Corey. Um, you could hear Corey carrying quite a lot of the show, but I think he's been backstage. He needs to be given a shot, doesn't
yeah,
he?
of course,
Um, I think he's decent. It's just going to take some, and I think he's got the wrestling knowledge, which I think in past attempts they haven't had that.
yeah.
Um, with I can't remember his name, the guy who didn't last long at all.
Oh, Adnan Burke.
Yes, he was terrible because he just didn't have the wrestling knowledge. He had the
Hmm,
enthusiasm. I think this is almost the other way round. I think give him a few weeks. If you look back at Michael Cole in the early days, I'm sure he was probably quite similar.
yeah,
It takes a little while to get into
because
their
Michael Cole
sway.
did come from a backstage announcer as well
Yeah, I think
originally.
he
So
could be great. We just need to give him the time,
yeah, it
uh,
needs to do time.
and
I
they need
didn't
to
think it was
adjust the volume.
significantly like bad or good in this one. I just it was just kind of whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about the actual rest of the segments that did happen on the show. So we started
Should we?
again with go on.
No, no, it's cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, should we start with the bloodline?
Yeah, so I was going to start with the
Um,
Bloodline anyway. So we
First thing
get
real noticeable, this crowd was banging. It
yes,
was so loud,
it was
which
a
really made everything just feel great.
yeah. Shout out to the Brooklyn crowd. It was a good crowd for this Raw. I thought because we've had a couple where recently where the
They
crowd
were
hasn't been
terrible. I think SmackDown's was awful. I
as
think I noticed it wasn't good, but
yeah.
Raw,
I mean, we've
wow.
had some good ones and we've had some really poor ones, but yeah, this one was great. So obviously, it starts with the Bloodline. I love the bit with Sami here getting. I mean, Sami is so over now with this crowd.
Yeah,
They
Roman
want
and
Sami to
Sami were almost
speak.
calling out Jay, weren't they?
Yeah. So again, they were kind of. I love the shout out to Jimmy, and Sami's aim was just like everyone loves Jimmy, and everyone was like cheering Jimmy. That bit was cool.
It was like the crowd were playing along. It was almost like this segment felt ad hoc. It didn't feel scripted. It obviously was scripted,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
felt unscripted. Like the way they were talking to Sami and then Roman let Sami speak. It just worked so perfectly.
Mm.
I guess they've read the crowd like a book, haven't they, really?
Yeah. So and then Jay was kind of like, "Are you being serious? Is this a rib? Because like you're telling Sami to tell me what to do, kind of thing." Um, pretty good, really, really good segment. Then Riddle comes out, which I was a bit at first. I was like, "Okay, why is he here? This makes no
Mm.
sense." But he was basically like, "Look, I can't challenge for the title anymore, but I want one more shot." Roman said no, made that clear, and then Riddle was like, "Okay, as I can't fight you, can I fight one of the other members of the Bloodline?" And then this is where Jay I thought was brilliant because he was really encouraging Sami. Was like, "Oh, Sami can
Yeah,
take care of this. Sami will do this." And then Sami kind of had no choice but to step up to the plate, which I thought was a really, really good little again thing
yeah. I
between the
enjoyed
two of
that.
them. Really, really good stuff. So then we got Sami Zayn versus Matt Riddle set up
You've
as the main event.
disappeared off camera, Fisher. You've done a Bray Wyatt on me.
I'm not sure what's happened there. Sorry. There we go.
Come back? Here he is. Here he is.
I'm not sure what happened there.
Let me in. Sorry to interrupt, but we want to see your lovely face. For those on the podcast, Fisher just disappeared.
Yeah. I think I pressed the stop video.
But we're back now. We're back.
Fine. At least I didn't end the video.
We don't want to end the recorded. Yeah,
like I did last time.
Before.
Right, where were we? We were talking about, so Riddle come out. Yeah, what did you make of the whole Riddle thing?
It was random, but it makes sense to sort of like a stopgap. Do you think Roman will end up facing him?
No.
Not at all?
No, I think they'll stick by that stipulation of Riddle can't go for the Universal title.
Make him just go through the.
And I think they've already done the Riddle Roman feud. I don't see them going back to it. But yeah, it's possible, but I don't think so. I think this was just to give Riddle another big match after he beat Seth on the Extreme Rules show. They wanted to keep him on a bit of a roll. So give him the main event against a member of the Bloodline, get the win. I think that's all it was, but I might be wrong. We might get next week. He might come out again and challenge Solo or someone else.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. He's just going to go through the.
So the main event match itself, pretty good in-ring action as you'd expect between these two guys. I mean, it's going to be a good match. But the story of the match again was really between Jay and Sami. Jay kept trying to help. Sami was saying he didn't need his help, and then he was helping at the wrong times. And in the end, obviously, Riddle won with an RKO as well. So he's still keeping that going with the sort of Orton tribute act that he is.
Yeah.
So that was interesting as well. What did you make of all of that in the main event?
Yeah, it was okay. It was good, but I'd already expelled a lot of my excitement by this stage.
Yeah, I know.
Which I will talk about in a moment. But it was good. Yeah, it was decent enough.
Yeah, and it just furthers the Bloodline story, which is really good stuff.
I like the Jay thing. It's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the United States title?
Yeah, picture? So let's talk about the big return at the start of this segment first, then, and then we'll talk.
Well, this whole section really, I loved it. This is
I thought this was perfectly booked. Actually, yeah, I would probably say it would be my top mark.
Should we do a joint top mark? Should we joint top mark it up this week?
Because I thought this was booked brilliantly.
Surprisingly,
it was a surprise. It was a surprise.
Yeah.
It kept Lashley strong because of how beaten up he got. You put a title on Seth, which is again great.
Yeah,
and also you set up Lashley v Lesnar for a non-title feud, which I think is the perfect use of Lesnar. So
they really tricked me, because if anyone's listened to the Extreme Rules podcast, I predicted that Seth would win here. I just couldn't see him not winning. I said last week
I thought he might, but I did also think
when I saw him bandaged up, I was thinking, how is he going to beat a fully strength Bobby Lashley? I was like, he can't unless something happens. But I in no way expected what happened in the return of Brock Lesnar coming out.
Well, it's Saudi Arabia time, isn't it? He always pops up around here. I did say that.
Crown jewel, isn't it?
I predicted he might face Cormier because of him being the special guest ref.
Just the way he left when Vince went, I thought, he's probably not going to come back. I honestly thought that's him done. But Crown Jewel money talks big time, and to be honest, it makes sense. Big match, Lashley versus Lesnar, and to be honest, it's one I'm looking forward to.
And they do have history from the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
Lashley beat Lesnar.
Yeah,
for the title where Roman interfered.
And there's no title, which makes it perfect. Because we're not going to get in a horrible scenario where they want Lesnar to win, but he's going to carry a title.
Yeah, if he won the United States title, that would have been stupid.
It'd have been crazy.
Yeah. So I
3 F5s did he hit?
I think it was about that. Yeah, suplexes, 3 F5s. He proper took Lashley out. Yeah, the Kimura lock as well. Really took Lashley out. So Lashley cuts a promo first, mentions Brock's name and some people he's beaten. Then Lesnar just comes down, the place goes mental, and then the proper beatdown, like really took Lashley out to the point where The medical staff, the officials are all saying, like, get to the back, we can't fight. Seth's music hits, he runs down,
Oh,
like you say,
before this,
bandaged up.
I was begging him to come out. I was like, please hit the music. I was like,
As
please.
soon as
I
he
mean,
come out, I was like, okay, so he's going to win here.
don't get me wrong,
here.
I'm a big fan of Lashley, but I couldn't wait for that music to hit.
Yeah, and then what I loved as well was, so Lashley at first wasn't going to take the match because the medical were not advising him, but Rollins was really goading him into it. He called him a disgrace to his country. He was like, you're supposed to be a soldier, you're supposed to be a fighter.
Really dug in.
Really went
playing
into it.
massively on the heel cards there, big time, because that's going to wind the crowd up.
Yeah.
Also getting the crowd behind Bobby Lashley, which makes it even more shocking. I thought this was going to end quick at first because Lashley went straight for a spear, which was amazingly countered with a pedigree. I love that counter, absolutely, because it doesn't look staged either.
No, it looks like a
going
for the spear. You can count. Yeah,
it's so good, and this went on for longer than I thought.
Yeah,
it was back and forth, wasn't it, for quite a while?
Well, again, they didn't completely. If Seth had beaten Lashley in one move, even though he got beaten up by Brock, again, like they really protected Lashley here.
Yeah.
And Seth took his time. He did a few. I think he won with 2 stomps in the end.
Yeah, he even took a spear, didn't he?
I thought for a second. Yeah, he did. I thought for a second as well. He wasn't. He was taking so long that something else was going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought maybe because he stomped Mustafa Ali last week. I thought maybe we're going to get Mustafa Ali come down, cost him. And then
if he'd have lost, I'd have been absolutely fuming.
Yeah, I
think that'd have been my last straw with Seth losing. I'd have been fully toys out the pram.
Yeah, it would have been pointless doing the Lesnar beatdown to weaken Lashley and then having Lashley beat him.
Yeah. I can't wait to see this reign, and I hope he gets to keep it for a long time.
Yeah, I can see him having a tear with this, like Lashley has been on, but with more maybe substantial feuds than not Lashley's had. But you can get some banger matches. You could have like Gargano facing for it. You could have Ali. You could have Kevin Owens. You could have so many people you can have on Raw. And I can see them doing Cody. I think you mentioned it on the pod.
Ciampa, it could be.
Yeah, I remember. Amazing. I think you mentioned on the pod about Cody potentially.
It's a perfect title for Cody to win, isn't it? To keep him to not drop the title for Roman. United States champion, American Nightmare. It just makes sense. So we could easily do something. Cody can still win. I know traditionally the Royal Rumble is going for the top titles, but if you've already got a match set,
I still think the Royal Rumble winner will go after Roman. I'm pretty sure, unless the title.
You think the Rock's going to win the Royal Rumble then? If
we don't. The thing is, we don't know for a fact that match is happening, do we?
It just seems so.
I think they could. I think if they're going to do that, they have to split the titles before. They have to, surely. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how. If it is the Rock v Roman at Mania, then the Rock shouldn't win the Royal Rumble. That's silly.
Yeah, it would be silly. Cody Rhodes needs to come back and win the Royal Rumble.
Cody winning the Rumble and going after ratings would be better. If the Rock isn't wrestling, that's the best option in my opinion. Obviously, if the Rock is wrestling, then you need to split the titles or get the titles off of Roman before. Yeah, it's very difficult to book the way out of this. That's the problem with it.
But a fantastic segment. Absolutely loved that. I was on the edge of my seat for the whole thing.
Yeah, it was excellently done.
Thank you. Finally, Seth has gold. Well deserved. If I'd say that I can remember recently, probably the most deserved title win of recent time. He's been carrying a long time, in my opinion. I know we've got Roman, who's been brilliant, but he's had that belt for God knows how long now.
Yeah, like over 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Seth's just been releasing banger after banger, losing feud after feud. He definitely deserves that belt. So yeah, can't wait to see what he does with it.
And then we'll move on to we got a real surprise return on this show as well. Not someone because obviously Lesnar is someone that works for the company, but first of all we had Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable, which was a fine match, nothing special, but Rey Mysterio wins that, which he probably needed. Rhea, I love Rhea's armband for Beth here, as if Beth was dead. But yeah, she took her out last week with that Concerto at Extreme Rules. You had Priest and Finn come down in the match. Dom was begging Ray to hit him again. All these shenanigans. But then so after the match, Ray wins. The beatdown comes from Judgment Day, and then they cut a promo. The promo starts. They talk about Edge. They talk about Ray. Then he turns it to it. Finn gets on the mic and he changes it to AJ Styles. Starts talking about AJ Styles, and then I thought what happened after this was again brilliantly done. So AJ comes out. They go back and forth, and AJ basically gets on his knees and he's like, "You've been right all along. I need my friends. I need my brothers. I need my family." Hugs
It
Finn.
was only at that point that, because I suspected none of this, and I actually forgot about this segment until you brought it up. But actually, again, I got really excited. This was awesome. And it was only when he said brothers, I was like, hang on, surely not.
Yeah. And then he hugs Finn, and I was like, there's got to be something more to this. And then he goes, but I wasn't talking about you. And the look that Finn's selling over here was brilliant on his face.
So good, weren't they?
And then the music hits, Anderson and Gallows run down, and it looks like we're getting the club back together against the Judgment Day. Now I'm not a huge Gallows and Anderson fan. Like I'm not like massively into them. But
I actually love them now.
I think it's quite cool that they're back.
Yeah, the spell in AEW I thought was brilliant, and AEW was silly not to sign them, in my opinion, back then. Not now. I wouldn't say sign them. The roster's too big, but when they had them, I thought it was okay. But yeah, I think this is a good move. It's just completely out of nowhere. And it's really going to give AJ some substance, I think. AJ again is somebody who really needs something to do, some direction.
Absolutely, this makes AJ much more interesting. That's the main thing about it for me.
Yeah,
and now we're going to get AJ versus Finn and the club versus Judgment Day.
And the pop they got was insane.
It was a big pop.
I didn't expect that.
No,
this crowd was wild.
And it is interesting because there's a few interesting things about this, in my opinion. So Carl Anderson has had some real like beef on his Twitter with WWE stuff before, replying to them saying how much he hates them, and basically saying he said he'd never go back. Like he was like, I'm saying never.
I can only think the Triple H factors.
Yeah, obviously things change when the ownership changes, or not the ownership, but the creative or whatever. And the fact that he currently holds a New Japan belt, the Never Openweight Championship, that is very interesting. So New Japan retweeted WWE's tweet about the Good Brothers. Some people are speculating maybe they're going to have a working partnership. Some people are saying it's probably nothing.
Didn't they mention that a while ago?
Yeah, they tried to, but obviously then it happened with the AEW for AEW stuff forbidden.
Well, I'm wondering if Triple H is more open to this and more.
I think he would be. I think he would definitely be, but I don't think there will be a partnership. I think what they might do is they'll let Carl Anderson work in his Japan shows or whatever he had booked already. He'll drop the title that he holds, and then he'll just work exclusively for WWE after that. That's what I'm expecting. But if it was more than that, then it'd be awesome. Of course.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm just excited to see what they do.
Interesting to see him back. And Gallows has been back and forth in WWE so many times. He loves it. But yeah, really interesting to see them back. Not one I expected. But yeah, cool stuff. And we're getting a Bullet Club sort of thing again in WWE. And I just, like I want to say, we've mentioned in the past on AEW when everyone was in a faction and it got a bit too much. Do you feel like that could happen here? Or do you think at the moment it's about
enjoy factions though. I think it was
love factions
who was on that. But
I do like factions, but I did understand where he was coming from, because in AEW it felt like every single person was in a faction. And I think if every single person's in a faction, it does get too much. At the moment, you've still got quite a lot of singles wrestlers in WWE, and then quite a few factions as well. So I think it's a good mix. You do need some factions. There wasn't enough before.
No, there was next to no one, was there? Then you get one faction that you could just destroy everybody.
Yeah.
Or one person would beat them all up, which was a bit odd. But I'm just excited to see what's going to happen.
What factions do is they give more people screen time. They give more options for matches, multi-man matches, singles matches between people in those factions. So, it makes it more interesting, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Another match worth mentioning for sure is an interesting topic to speak about.
Mm.
Theory versus Gargano.
Yes.
This was a great match. I thought Gargano looked brilliant in ring, and I thought Theory looked
He
fantastic,
did
to
look
be
really good
honest.
here. Yeah.
Some of the bumps he was taking, he was really putting Gargano over, and he just looked generally good. We had a brilliant that DDT that Gargano does. He did one on the outside, and that was wild. That looked incredible. And that was actually the point that I really noticed. The second DDT in the ring, Theory got spiked like on his head. He sold that so well.
Mm.
And Gargano won the match.
Yeah.
Clean.
So Theory, I think Keeney sent us a tweet, showed us a tweet the other day, and it was Theory has now lost 15 matches in a row,
Which is
which a bit much.
odd for the.
But do you think this is leading to a story or something?
I think it might be. It also gives such a surprise element if he eventually does cash in.
Mm.
I still don't know where the hell he's going to cash in.
I don't think he does cash in.
How? I mean,
he's not cashing in on Roman, is he? So
no.
Unless the titles are split and something happens.
That could be a brilliant way of splitting the titles if they do some. I don't know how, but you split it so he can only cash in on one or something weird like that. I don't know how they get out of this. They have made an absolute mess with putting those titles together.
Yeah, it's annoying. I agree with you on the match. The match was really good. Gargano did need to win because he lost last week, didn't he? Already, we were saying last week it was a surprise he had already lost. So Gargano winning's good, but yeah, I don't know where Theory goes from here. It's a very strange one, and he's someone that I think the booking has been a bit odd. Me and Keeney spoke about it in depth last week about it, and yeah, it's been a bit strange, but I do think it's going somewhere. If it goes somewhere when we get a satisfactory,
I can't imagine Triple H is just squashing him just to get back at Vince or anything.
No, I don't think it's that. Weird. I don't think it is. I think
it's got to have a purpose.
I think there's a story coming out of this.
Theory needs a faction. I know we've been talking about it.
Well, he's kind of with the Alpha Academy a little bit, but not officially,
not
is he?
Properly though, is it?
No,
really. He's hanging around with them, but it would be quite funny if he just suddenly started putting Alpha Academy gear on.
Well, he wore last week. He wore an All Day Academy T-shirt. He called it All Day Academy, and he was calling it All Day Academy on T. So I think that's potentially what he's going to end up being part of that group. I feel
interesting. We had the damage control section, didn't we?
Yeah.
Which was not actually damage control, was it?
Well, we had Bayley versus Candice. We had a little promo from Damage Control, but we had a Candice versus Bayley match. The match was fine. Candice, I think, won it by a roll-up in the end.
She did, yeah. Which I didn't mind because it's so rare we see one now.
Yeah.
I like the way the Bayley was playing into she looked really defeated, like when she was coming out. She really did look quite sad, quite worn out, which I think is really cool actually. I wonder what they're doing with this. It's interesting because I think that's not just by chance. I think they're playing on this.
Well, I think they're gonna. Yeah, well, I think Bayley's gonna get desperate and want another shot on the title, and that's gonna be the lead to the War Game. I think he goes to the War Games match.
Okay.
And then it'll be like if Bayley's team wins, she can get another shot, but if she doesn't, then she can't challenge Belair anymore or something like that. That's surely what I reckon because they're surely going to be in the War Games match, aren't they? These teams
definitely, yeah.
But this was all okay, and then Belair come down to help Candice. No Asuka and Alexa Bliss. They're still selling those injuries from last week, which I quite like when they do that. And then Candice and Belair got beaten up here, so it's like a case of who can stop Judgment Day because they just keep beating everybody up. So yeah, not sure quite where that's going in terms of is anyone else going to come in and help them, or are Alexa and Asuka going to be back next week, and then we get those guys, and this feud just continues like that. But yeah, this was all okay. I would say it wasn't the best thing in the show, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah. And the only other segment I can really think about, we mentioned Omos actually destroying.
Yeah, I've got a couple of other things.
And then we had Miz and Maurice in a comedy segment.
Yeah, this was a bit skiddy for me.
You didn't like it?
Well, I'm just a bit bored of. I'm glad. The only thing I
Are
will
you
say is
bored of Mrs. Giant Balls?
no. I that bit popped me when he had the giant balls and he as a present and the baseball bat. I thought that was all fine,
Yeah.
but I'm just bored. It's been too repetitive with Dexter Loomis now. Like
Yeah, Dexter Lewis is
there
a bit
every
random,
week,
isn't
there's
he?
the same thing. Like why is no one stopping it? Why is Miz even bothering
Well, I
coming?
think it's coming to a conclusion now, isn't it?
I was going to say, at least we get a match next week. I'm happy that we're getting a match next week because that can put a stop to it. But yeah, I'm not. And I
Surely
know,
Loomis has to win because he gets a contract, doesn't he?
yeah. So if Loomis wins, he gets a contract. If he
Yeah.
loses, he's gone. So I think Loomis wins, which
Yeah.
is his first match, so he probably should win. And I'm just glad they're finally doing something in the ring because it's been it feels like 6-7 weeks at least
Yeah, it's been a long
of
time.
this. That's been like a long time of the same thing.
I've not minded it because it hasn't taken up too much screen time.
No, it's just 1 or 2 weeks too many for me.
Yeah.
And also, I never like spots where people just go into cake. And Maurice botched it the first time, I think. I don't know what happened,
I think
but she
kind
missed
of
it
rubbed it on her face. Although she was, I think, covered in it when she was backstage.
eventually. Yeah.
I did like the giant balls to put your bat line.
Yeah. And I did like the crowd were telling Loomis to eat the cake.
Eat the cake.
That bit was fine. It's just the fact that this hasn't really gone anywhere new in like weeks and weeks. But hopefully, with the match happening next week, that can change. Only one other thing to talk about, really. And that was, it wasn't a segment as such, but there was a little promo for Elias coming back next week.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
I think it was like just at the start. Oh, there's an advert break. Then it was just before the main event, I think. There was a little like, hello, I am Elias. And it's Elias, not Ezekiel. So Triple H has obviously gone, right, that gimmick's gone.
He's had enough time to grow his beard back.
Yeah, he's had enough time to grow his beard back. And I'm sure Kevin Owens can be very pleased to see Elias back. That could be a funny segment for next week. We haven't seen Kevin Owens in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure where he is. But I guarantee next week, Elias is going to do his song. He's going to be in the ring. And then KO is going to come out and be like, you were Elias all along, weren't you? And he's going to probably be like, yep. But I think Triple H didn't want like the Ezekiel gimmick. I think that was a Vince thing, and he's going back to the Elias now. So that's a cool one. I think that's a good move as well. Hopefully, and yeah, just one other thing as well. Actually, where's Ciampa? Because he was in this feud with Miz, and he's gone.
I wonder whether he might get involved next week with the match and maybe cost Miz the match, and then maybe they'll have a feud, Miz versus Ciampa. That could be quite a good feud.
Yeah, maybe he's going to repackage Ciampa because he didn't want him to stay with the Miz. That is a possibility. I'm just curious because he hasn't been on the show for 2-3 weeks now.
Yeah, strange. And Triple H is massive on Ciampa, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know if I've not heard about him being injured or anything. So it's just a bit of a weird one. But I think that's it for Raw.
Yeah, that was a great Raw. Really enjoyed it.
It was a really strong Raw, probably one of the best Raws of this whole year, I would say. The 3 hours actually flew by, which doesn't often happen.
No.
Let's talk briefly about NXT. I haven't got loads of notes for it, but we will talk about it because it's the build up to Halloween Havoc.
PLE.
And I want to talk about the best thing that probably happened on the show, and maybe the best match I've seen all week. Certainly, well, no, maybe not all week if I include Extreme Rules, actually, but on TV and WWE this week, which was Nathan Fraser and Axiom. That match is the third in their series. Obviously, they were 1-1. The third match was the final North American Championship qualifier, and they put it all out there and were flying all over the place. The counters, the chemistry they had with each other was awesome. Axiom trying loads of submissions, Fraser countering it. You can see Seth Rollins' influence all over Nathan Fraser's moves.
Yeah.
Just an awesome match, I thought.
It was great. I enjoy seeing these guys in the ring, especially Nathan Fraser. He's just so fast. He's nuts, isn't he?
Yeah, he throws himself into everything, and he won, which means he is in the North American ladder match, Fatal 5-way, with Carmelo Hayes, Oro Mensah, Wesley, and Von Wagner. So
that's going to be pretty insane.
That will be an insane match. You've got 4 high-flying guys in there, and then Von Wagner is the big man. So that should be pretty interesting.
I'm looking forward to that one.
That was a banger of a match, I would say. What else did we get on this
segment
show?
I enjoyed. We had Alba Fire versus JC Jane. Alba Fire beats JC Jane, which you'd expect. But then Toxic Attraction come out with Sonya Deville, which I
Yeah, so
wasn't
she grabbed her from the
expecting.
crowd. I wasn't expecting that at all. So Alba Fire's about to leave after beating JC Jane in a fairly okay match. Didn't go that long. And as she's leaving, the hooded person grabs her. And I thought it was going to be Mandy, but it wasn't. It was Sonya.
Which is cool. Playing back to their old tag team.
Yes. You know, I saw some people criticize this because like the last time they were like on screen together, they were like feuding, but it was 2 years ago, and I just think everyone knows that Mandy and Sonya are good friends in real life, so
Yeah.
I think it
They
works.
buried the hatchet,
and
man.
it was an awesome beatdown and like Shield powerbomb for a table.
Yeah, that powerbomb was awesome, straight for the announce desk.
And next week we're getting Alba Fire versus Sonya Deville on NXT TV, which I think is an awesome move.
Good. Also, if Alba Fire wins, puts her over.
And I love the use of main roster stars on NXT, and it sounds like from what we got on this NXT, we're going to be getting a bit more of that because there were some other hints to that on this show, with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade both picking a partner from Raw and SmackDown to tag with each other next week. So I think Roxanne's going to be on SmackDown this Friday, and then Cora Jade's going to be on Raw on Monday, and they pick each other's tag partner. So that's quite interesting. And also Cameron Grimes, when he got beaten up by the Schism on this show, he said he doesn't trust anyone in NXT as tag partners, but that doesn't mean that the whole of WWE. So he's obviously got something up his sleeve with a main roster tag team as well. So this is all quite interesting. The use of main, we've praised it before with people like Natalia, Dolph Ziggler, other people that have come down, AJ Styles briefly, you know, when they've used main roster people in NXT to help boost the NXT roster. I think it works really, really well. Yeah. They should do it as much as possible. Also gives people that aren't being used on the main roster TV time.
Yeah, 100%.
So I really like that. We got a triple threat #1 contenders match here as well with Enofe and Blade, Briggs and Jensen, and the Dyad, which was won by Enofe and Blade. So they are the #1 contenders and will face Pretty Deadly, who had a weird little segment at the start of the show. They always do the campus.
That did make me laugh. They're just there to wind the crowd up, aren't
they?
Yeah,
they do the funniest random segments. But yeah, this match basically, they won it. So, but the Cameron Grimes kind of cost the Schism here, which led to that beatdown we were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah, hit an awesome cave-in on the out.
Cave in on Gacy on the outside after Gacy tried to get involved. Enofe and Blade are a good team. I don't think they've got a chance of winning the titles.
No, be an exciting match though, won't it?
Yeah, I don't think they're quite over enough to win the tag team titles, but they are a good team and it will be a good match, I'm sure. We had Bron Breakker versus Javier Bernal, which went longer than I thought it would. But the main thing about that was sort of JD McDonough's involvement, and then obviously Ilya coming out at the end as well. Looking forward to that triple threat match. That's going to be great between Breakker, McDonough, and Ilya. We also had Ilya then get approached by Grayson Waller as he was leaving, which led to the main event match of Ilya Dragunov versus Grayson Waller, which was good, but had a stupid bit with the wheel spinning on its own, which kind of led to the finish. Grayson Waller jumping into the ring into the finisher, and Ilya won that way, which I didn't think was needed. But that was all okay. We also got a couple of other little things to mention, and then that's about it, really. So we had Indy Hartwell versus Valentina Feroz. Now, I was quite surprised to see Indy Hartwell on NXT because I thought she was going to get called up. I thought we wouldn't see her on NXT again. But apparently she is still there. Very destroyed her, didn't she? Yeah, beat Feroz. But the real talking point here, again, was the presence of Veer Mahan, because Sanga was ringside with Valentina, and then Veer comes and he leaves.
Called him away, didn't he?
So I think, we've discussed it already, but that tag team looks like it's going to happen. Veer is back in NXT, where I think is a good move, because I think he on the main roster now with all the call ups, with all the signings coming back, Veer would have been completely lost. I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is brilliant. Yeah.
I think it's a better use for him.
And if they're good, I could see them being a decent main roster tag team.
Yeah, well, I think Sanga's pretty good for a giant. I think he's a pretty good giant. And I think Veer's obviously
I think
decent enough. He's been on
awesome
the main roster already, so yeah, I think they could be a good team, to be honest. We also got Wesley versus Stax, which was a decent little match actually. Stax's first real one-on-one match. Wesley's great, and Wesley did win, obviously, and then got attacked by Trick and Mello afterwards, I believe. And then Tony D'Angelo was annoyed with Stax and said he would have a match next week against a mystery opponent. That again could be a main roster person, for all we know. It wouldn't surprise me. It feels like they're really trying to make it sort of so that they interact a lot, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
There wasn't a lot else on this show. There was a really terrible segment with Thea Hale and Kiana James, which I'd rather forget about. That was bad. Where Robert Stone got involved and then she just rolled her up.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was crap. So not a lot else to say about that.
Skiddy.
And that was basically NXT in a nutshell. The show was okay. Halloween Havoc card looks pretty good, I would say.
I think that's going to be a cracker.
Well, Alba Fyre versus Mandy will be a banger. And I think the main men's title match looks great as well. So you've got two matches there that I think will be really good. So that's pleasing. As well as you're getting Grayson Waller, the Apollo Crews, which is obviously Apollo had a promo on this show as well. So the card looks good. The show itself at the moment isn't great, but I hope what we need really from NXT is a proper pay-per-view now. So hopefully we get kind of like an old takeover level show.
Yeah,
that's what I feel it needs one, but to start a new era, because it's supposedly a new era, but at the moment the booking's pretty much the same as the old NXT 2.0. Hasn't really changed in the last couple of weeks.
No, maybe some title changes will freshen it up.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, that's really it for this week. No AEW show on this one, but I may get an AEW video in recorded. I know I say that every week, and sometimes I don't.
He's a liar. Yeah.
Well, it depends how busy I am.
Don't believe anything he says.
Yeah,
he also says he's good at predictions, and look what happens there.
I never said I was good. Talking of predictions, actually, our predictions results are up on our thing. So, well done. Thanks to all who took part, and everyone who's took part over this. We're coming towards the end now, so everyone who's took part over the course of the last year. RM Punk, if you're listening, he's already tweeted saying he's thinking about what shirt he wants. He's getting a bit ahead of himself.
It's only because the people near him is me and Keeney, and we can't win.
He pretty much has won it, to be fair. He's pretty much won it because none of the other people that are eligible for a t-shirt are close.
Maybe we should block him on Twitter so he can't have one.
No, yeah.
But thank you to everyone who has joined in. If you haven't even heard about this, please follow us on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle.
Yeah.
Recharge Wrestle. We'll be doing another one next year because we've enjoyed it so much.
We might do it slightly differently. I think
RM Punk's got a handicap. He's not allowed. He's on minus 10 points to start.
Yeah.
But yeah, check that out for sure. If you're listening to this in podcast format, please find us on YouTube, Recharge Wrestling. Give us a like, subscribe, and follow. We will be really chuffed if you do. Check out our old content. Plenty on there, including some WWE 2K.
Which we do hope to do more of in the future. So much live stuff from Clash at the Castle and stuff like that as well, if you're interested in that kind of thing on our YouTube channel. But yeah, we hope to keep more stuff going. Obviously, we have pay-per-view reviews. If you haven't listened to Extreme Rules, as I said earlier. Next up, I think will be Survivor Series. I don't think there's any other. There might be an AEW show.
We've got Crown Jewel in between.
Oh, Crown Jewel. Yeah, Crown Jewel. So we've got Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. For predictions wise left, we've got basically Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. And I think RM Punk has to like blank on both shows basically and completely mess it up for him not to win.
But get involved anyway. It's good fun. Even if you've never predicted, just check it out.
Yeah, and certainly if you're interested, if you didn't join in this year, keep it in mind for next year because then you can start, the scores reset and we can
work your way out ready for that.
Work way out. We might do it slightly differently points wise, pay-per-views. We might not do all of the shows we did this year. I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet. We'll discuss that and then let people know. But yeah, looking forward to the shows coming up that we've got. I don't think we're going to do NXT ones.
Yeah. Anyway, this is starting to sound like a Cena promo. We're waffling on massively.
We are a little bit.
So I hope you're feeling charged. And hopefully, well, I know I say hopefully, but one of us will be back next week, and we'll check us out, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Goodbye.